How neat would it be if you could get an awesome condenser mic at a great price that's designed specifically to handle all the work you can throw at it? Maybe you've heard some of the buzz about the Neat Microphone's worker bee, so today we're going to put it to the test and see if it's worth the money. And this video is not sponsored in any way. I legitimately thought that this was a neat microphone and it would be fun to check it out, so I bought it, I got it, and now we're going to take a look at it. But before we jump into the details of this microphone, the history of Neat is actually pretty neat. So let's take a look at this bee's colony and just see what this is. Look at the company. Neat was created by the founders of Blue Microphones in 2014. Blue was purchased by the Riverside Company in 2013 and then purchased by Logitech in 2018. Now, I'm speculating in a pretty huge way here, but it wouldn't surprise me if these acquisitions, especially that first one, played a role in why the founders of Blue wanted to leave and start a new company in the first place. And from what I can tell after surfing the World Wide Web, Neat was founded in 2014, but their first products didn't actually come out until 2016, and then it was a part of Gibson, like the guitar company. There were then some administrative shakeups and the products became kind of hard to find, pretty much only being available online. It's a pretty interesting story, and I'll put a link to an article in the description of this video that covers it in more detail if you want to check that out. And it doesn't end there, because in January of 2021, Neat was purchased by Turtle Beach, a publicly traded gaming headset company, which seems to be set on bringing back members of the original team and revitalizing the Neat brand and products, which is pretty neat. And all that is to say that sometimes these microphones can be hard to find. In my experience, it seems like the Worker Bee is the most widely available online. The MSRP is $199, but I was able to purchase this one brand new for $90. And shopping around at different retailers, it seems like that's not really an unusual price for this microphone. And that means that this is actually an Un-BEE-lievable budget option, because at $90, it's even cheaper than the Pod mic, which has kind of always been my go-to budget podcast vocal microphone option. And you get a lot for that price. In addition to the microphone, everything comes in this giant box, which they say is entirely recyclable, but also they intend for it to be useful, because if you take the mic box out of it delicately and elegantly, then you sort of end up with this plastic bin here that's great for cables and stuff like that. And I'm not even someone who really cares about product packaging, because, you know, you use the packaging of the product for a couple of minutes and then you use the product for potentially years. So I don't really care what kind of box it comes in. But this, as my first experience into Neat, was pretty neat. And so in addition to the microphone and the shock mount, you also get a pop filter, which I am using right now. It comes with a cloth bag to carry it in. It also comes with extra screws for the shock mount to attach the mic securely, and an adapter to make sure that it will fit on pretty much any mic stand. And maybe most confusingly, it comes with this thing. I don't know what it is. It's sort of a top, but it's not. But it also has the name of the mic and then your serial number on the bottom. I have no idea, but it's cute. I don't know. Oh, and then you get the documentation, which in the world of microphones that I am used to, even something like the Shure SM7B has relatively limited documentation. It just says, here's your microphone, here's the pickup patterns. But this is like a beautifully printed thing that has not just info about the mic and different microphones, but also recording techniques. They also lean pretty heavily into the bee theme with things like care and feeding, pollination. But what's actually pretty cool is it not only gives you the info like you would expect, done in a very nice, designy way, it actually gives you recording technique suggestions for pretty much everything. So you can do vocals, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, strings. And it has little paragraphs for all of these that explain how you might want to mic up those specific instruments. And some of it is pretty cool. So like, for example, on a drum set, it talks about how you could use multiple worker bees together as a colony to position the microphones in different ways and get the best drum sound possible. It even gives you some ideas for like electric instruments. If you mic the amp but then have another mic near the fingers on the fretboard, you can mix those tracks together so you hear some of the organic finger sounds mixed with the electric sound. Like, point is, those are actually really helpful, interesting things, and it's more than you would typically find in microphone documentation, even with microphones that are significantly more expensive than this one. And the reason I wanted to share all that is because that is a lot of stuff for the price. And as the customer, I am super cool with that. Please give me all the things for the amount of money I spend on a microphone. But for a company that has sort of this confusing history of like, are they in business? Are they out of business? Are they widely available? Are they not? I have no idea how this is profitable. And I'll just leave it at that. Now, as a condenser mic, the Worker Bee runs on 48 volts of phantom power. But as the instructions point out, even though phantom power is supposed to be 48 volts, a lot of interfaces, especially some on the really, really budget end of things, don't actually give out that true 48 volts. And so the instructions say that this can run on as little as 35 volts. So if pretty much any interface or mixer you have that has any sort of phantom power should be more than enough to power this microphone, which is awesome. And it really does have a lot of output. I'm using it on the Rodecaster Pro right now, just on the generic condenser mic setting with the gain set to 18. And the channel's fader is just above halfway. So I could push this much, much louder, way louder than I would ever need to, and it would be fine. And it also works great with the Focusrite Scarlett. This is the 2i2, and this is the Rode AI1 interface. Both of these can power the Worker Bee no problem, and the gain can be around 12 or 1 o'clock. So you still have plenty of volume. If you're used to dynamic microphones with interfaces like this that just don't have enough gain and you have to deal with software afterwards, a condenser microphone in general will give you a louder signal, but this one is incredibly loud. And once the mic is connected to phantom power, there's a little logo on the back that will illuminate orange to let you know that it's getting power, and then you are totally ready to go. I'm gonna put some headphones on here so I can hear everything, because I've mentioned that for this video, I've been using this Worker Bee on the Rodecaster Pro on the generic condenser mic setting. I've been using this mic pretty exclusively for the past few weeks, and I've gotten a lot of great results out of it, gotten a lot of great feedback on it, and gotten some cool compliments on it. So it's generated some positive buzz, you might say. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it does come with this little honeycomb pop filter that I've been using for the duration of this video. I really love the way the mic looks without the pop filter, but this does make a difference. So without the pop filter, it's, Peter Piper pitched a podcast. And then with the pop filter, Peter Piper pitched a podcast. I've also found, though, that positioning this microphone just sort of off to the side works incredibly well. It has no problem picking up voice, and then all my breath is blowing past it, so I'm not giving any sort of plosives, pa 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 at all, and it still sounds really great. So this has sort of been my positioning and my setup most of the time that I've been using this microphone. And speaking of the honeycomb pop filter, do you know how bees brush their hair? They use honeycombs. And the shock mount is shockingly effective because there have been lots of times where I accidentally hit the boom arm and it's not even being picked up in the microphone really at all. If I hit the microphone here, you can hear that, but if I hit the boom arm or hit the shock mount, we can hear that. There's a low rumble. But I'm always moving my boom arm while recording, and normally that noise transfers over to the microphone, but not in this case, and that really helps things to continue sounding their best. And the way that the microphone fits into the shock mount is pretty interesting. It just slides in, and then there's 2 thumb screws that you screw in to mount it there. But what I like is, especially since I'm using it on the Rode PSA-1, normally the microphone would be facing this way and I wouldn't be able to talk into it because I have my PSA-1 mounted over here kind of to the side and behind me. So sometimes positioning microphones can be sort of difficult, and what I was able to do, since the microphone's square and the shock mount is square, is I was able to just not use the thumb screws and then just turn the microphone this way. And now it faces me from this weird angle. So that's kind of a cool little bit of versatility in this shock mount. And since this mic is marketed as being great for instruments, let's do a couple quick tests on different instruments. This is what it sounds like on a clean electric guitar. Here's a distorted electric guitar. Here is an acoustic guitar. And this is what it sounds like on an electric bass. And finally, here's what it sounds like as a badly positioned overhead drum mic. So you can see how versatile this microphone really is, and it's also incredibly well built. The durability, the build quality is excellent. I feel pretty confident that it's not going to just fall apart or break anytime soon, and that means because it could be used for all these different applications, that I think it would really hold up to that pretty well. It might look a little plasticky on camera, but it's very solidly built. Most of it is all metal, like the pop filter is plastic, and of course the shock mount has a few little plastic parts and rubber parts, but otherwise this is just all very heavy duty metal. It's heavy metal, yo. And the visuals of this microphone are probably the most polarizing thing about it. The color scheme and the design of the bee might sting the eyes of some people, but I actually really like it, so it's all just personal preference. I think that it adds a lot of really cool color and characteristic, and especially in an environment like mine that's got stuff and colors and things everywhere, I think it just adds something super cool to it. And just for reference, since I have it, I wanted to compare this to the Rode NT1. So both of these microphones are set to the exact same generic condenser setting on the Rodecaster Pro. And I did a review all about the Rode NT1 where I really do love this microphone. It's an awesome condenser microphone. It usually sells for about $260, $270. So it's priced at a higher point than this condenser mic, but here is the Worker Bee right here on the Rodecaster Pro, and here is the NT1 on the Rodecaster Pro. Both microphones have the same settings, the same gain level, everything is exactly the same. This is the Rode NT1 condenser microphone, and this is the Neat Worker Bee condenser microphone. There's definitely difference between the two. I honestly don't think one is better than the other. I think it's really more of just a preference thing. What do you like more? What do you think would be easier to work with your voice and your environment? Because again, as condenser microphones, this is going to be a little more prone to picking up environmental noise than a dynamic microphone would be. So even though these microphones can sometimes be hard to find, I do actually think that it's worth fighting the swarm to find one for yourself, and it'll be so interesting to see where things go from here. I'm very hopeful that the company might have a bit of a comeback and we might see these microphones more widely available, more models coming back. Maybe they'd even be available in stores or at more retailers and just more accessible, because this is a really cool microphone. It's super fun. It definitely does its own thing in its own way, and I always appreciate that. And now that you've seen me put the Worker Bee to work, if that's not enough to help you make your mic decision, you can dive into this hive of mic review and comparison videos.